You're just in time to discover some great football history as we uncover the roots of military football and the 1918 Great Lakes Blue Jackets team with Dan Charest coming up. And we're going to have a great discussion tonight with one team in particular with our guest, Dan Charest. Dan, welcome to the Pigpen.
Darren, hey, how's it going? I'm happy to be here and I'm happy to talk about one of the teams. I mean, I'm sure you've covered it on the Pigskin Dispatch a little bit. I actually use it as a source on this project that I just got a hand on. But yeah, the 1918 Naval Station Great Lakes Blue Jackets football team. Excited to talk about them.
Yeah, we have never done a podcast that's really directed at them. You know, we had a few years ago, we did a spotlight on the 100th anniversary of the Rose Bowl. So we went through all the Rose Bowl games. Of course, they had that very famous Rose Bowl game with some very famous people in it. So I know that's part of your story too. So it's just bits and pieces we've talked about. But why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself? First, tell us about your fandom and how you got excited enough to do a series on uh, football history.
Yeah, so I grew up in Massachusetts, Seekonk, Massachusetts, shout out. And so I was growing up there. One of my first football memories was actually the Patriots made Super Bowl 31, which was Bledsoe versus Favre, if you remember that one.
Yeah.
That was when I was in first grade. So I kind of like got, suckered into football fandom, courtesy of that Patriots team. Bledsoe, Curtis Martin, Bill Parcells, just some of the big names on that squad. And then from there, yeah, I mean, I was fortunate enough to grow up in an era of Boston sports where, they just had a crazy run. I mean, I'm a fan of the Patriots first and foremost, and then the Red Sox and also Celtics and Bruins. So to have that growing up, and I don't live in Massachusetts anymore, but I still follow the Patriots, watch them all the time, watch them every week, watched them when I was overseas. The Red Sox I follow a little bit too, and then if the Celtics or the Bruins were to make the finals, I would make sure to catch that as well. So, just a big sports fan in general, and yeah, so it kind of led to my professional life, doing a little bit of sports coverage there, and also was kind of the inspiration for this project was just my life in general, but life as a sports fan.
Okay, so the naval station, the Great Lakes Naval Station, of course, is closer over to my neck of the woods in the Great Lakes, nowhere near New England. How did you get connected with wanting to talk about this great team from history?
Yeah, it's really something that I feel like it's directly part of me in a way. So I went from Massachusetts. I graduated from Rhode Island College in 2013, and then 2014 I was enlisted in the Navy. And basic training for the Navy is in Great Lakes, and then depending on your job, which we call rates, I know other branches will call it an MOS, but your rate, some of those job trainings are actually what we would say like across the street would be the term, which means it's at the base that's basically across the street from where you go to basic training. So I was at basic, of course, for the normal allotted time, which at the time was about 9 weeks. And then I was an electrician for 3.5 years in the Navy. And then I transitioned to a job called MC, which is Mass Communication Specialist, which is basically a journalist, photographer, videographer, graphic design, all rolled into one. But for 3.5 years, I was an electrician, and my schooling was at Great Lakes. So I was actually there from not counting basic training, November 2014 to November 2015. So I stayed at Great Lakes for a year, experienced crazy winter, saw the Patriots win the Super Bowl against the Seahawks, snowed in at Great Lakes, and then yeah, from then on, I was able to go to some other cool places with the military. I was in Japan on a ship, attached to a ship, which ended up switching to San Diego, so I was living there for a bit, and then I spent 4 years in beautiful Naples, Italy at AFN Naples. And I'm also a huge Napoli soccer fan now. So it's like Patriots, Napoli are kind of like 1A and 1B for my
Nice.
teams that I follow. So yeah, and while I was in Naples, I enrolled at the University of Alabama online, did a journalism and media studies master's program. And then for my thesis project is where this project took off. So Jackie's the story, George Hallis and the 1918 Naval Station Great Lakes Blue Jackets football team. So it kind of tied together that I was there and I had the opportunity to make this project, and uh, here we are now. I'm talking to you, Darren, about it, and you even featured in the series. So I'm sure we'll get into that as well.
Yeah, well, first of all, thank you for your service, and what a rich history and background of education you've gotten, traveling the world, and got just so many football connections from, your Patriots to the Blue Jackets to the Crimson Tide, all in one thing, plus a little soccer thrown in there too,
Yes,
internationally. So, yeah, very, very,
yes.
very cool. So, in your young life, you've gone through a lot. So, but we appreciate your service and all you and your brethren and sisters in the military that are keeping us free.
Of
So,
course. Yeah, thanks for the support. I got super lucky with all these duty stations. I'm currently off active duty. I'm currently still in the reserve, but yeah, I was able to catch actually a lot of sports in a lot of different countries. Unfortunately, no American football, but yeah, that's maybe that'll spread to some of these countries later on, beyond just one or two or three NFL games a season.
yeah, it's really going international. We just talked to a guy the other day that's Estonia. They have American football going on in Russia. They're playing American football,
All
so it's
right. All
spreading all
right.
over the place. So we're excited about that. Okay, so let's go back. So first of all, I'm kind of intrigued that the Great Lakes Naval Station is still going strong and training young naval persons to serve in the Navy, which God, that's 100 some years plus.
Yeah, so during my research, I was actually able to talk to Timothy Brown, who is an author. He wrote a book called Fields of Friendly Strife. It was a great resource for this. And honestly, I didn't even know the origins of Great Lakes when I started taking on this project. And he kind of, gave me the rundown. It's in the series. If you listen to it, the three-part, about 30-minute per episode, look at the Blue Jackets. But back in, I think it was 1911, the base kicked off because there's so many service members joining from the Midwest. So they wanted kind of a more centrally located base, and it's right on. I mean, it's called Naval Station Great Lakes. It's right on Lake Michigan. Not that there's any, at least when I was there, there's no makeshift ships or anything there. It's just where the base is at. But so the origin of the base was there, and then they got Captain William Moffett, who plays a pretty central role in the story of this team. He was the captain of the base, and he took it upon himself to really grow the base through sports once World War I came around, and it really gave a name to the base, not just the football team. That's the one that we're talking about today and the one that had the most prominence, but they had teams in baseball and soccer. I know, uh, I think there might have been a ski team. Maybe I'm thinking of a different base, but they had plenty of teams to go around, and it was extensively covered, not just the football team, but another source that I used was the Great Lakes Bulletin from the day, which is no longer there, but I was able to access a lot of the archival stories from there. And yeah, not just the football team was there in the newspaper, but all the other teams, and they were featured prominently throughout the base. So that's how they kicked off. And then, yeah, service football took over during World War One. Many bases, many uh, forts, all sorts of, you know, places like that had, military personnel there. It was a great way for them to get out and show some base pride and service football. The real key to this story is how it launched the NFL, helped launch the NFL with service football. And Great Lakes was definitely the most well known of these teams, and service football even came back around during World War II.
Oh, interesting. So I take it probably the height of population of the Great Lakes Naval Station was probably during both World Wars. Would that be true?
I believe my guess and my research, I think it was 50,000 sailors were there,
Wow.
which is, I mean, crazy. Think of a city nearby you that has 50,000 people, and to imagine that on a base is pretty
I can tell you
substantial.
the city I live in is 100,000, so that's half the population, and it'll be all military. Wow, that is
Half
big.
half the population, you could probably is probably what seven times if you filled the Erie Seawolves stadium to capacity, times that by about seven or so, it'd probably be what Great Lakes had back in World War One.
Yeah, probably about 10 times. I think there's only 7,000 can sit in
Uh,
there.
I think
Yeah.
it was 50,000. I should have double checked, but
Wow.
it was quite a bit, way more than they would have today.
Yeah. Oh, man, that's so much larger than I thought. So that is, they're playing against university teams. It's bigger than any university. It's bigger than any, 4 or 5 universities put together probably at that time. Very, very uh, interesting. So, okay, so they had these teams. They're playing these competitive sports, and they're in Great Lakes Naval Station. What should give us maybe the location? I'm not sure that we told the listeners that.
For sure, yeah. So Great Lakes is about 1 hour north of the city of Chicago. So yeah, I mean nowadays you can take the train from Great Lakes right into Ogilvy Train Center if you know the city at all. So yeah, I mean myself, I was going in Chicago fairly regularly. But yeah, it's right on Lake Michigan. It's just north of Lake Forest, which is where I believe the Chicago Bears have their training facilities. And it's also, I think, where Michael Jordan was at when he was playing for the Bulls. I think he had a mansion there, so it's quite close to there.
Oh, very cool. So, George Hallis is very central in the story and in your series that you have going on with the Great Lakes Naval Football Team. And, of course, that's his stomping ground. He played at the University of Illinois, you know, end up going with the Blue Jackets and, of course, Decatur and the Chicago Bears. So that's his stomping ground. So I guess maybe that's where he got to know the lay of the land a little bit better, serving in the military.
Yeah, I mean, he is the namesake to the project I worked on. It's called Jackie's George Hallis and the 1918 Naval Station Great Lakes Blue Jackets. And I kind of made the story focused on Hallis because he became such a figure in football. He was on the Decatur Staleys, moved the team to Chicago, made them the Bears, was owner, player, coach for like 40 years. He just had such a historic run. And he really was an interesting guy in football history. I mean, if you cover football history at all, there's no way George Halas's name does not get brought up. I want to say for the actual Blue Jackets, though, I would say he was kind of just another player on the team. I mean, they had three future Hall of Famers on the team. Jimmy Conzelman, who didn't even play, he got benched in the season. He wasn't on the team. He was on the team, excuse me. Um, but I mean, it was him. It was George Halas, and Patty Driscoll as well, who went in for Conzelman as quarterback. I mean, for the team, and I mean, quarterback was a totally different position that than it is now. The forward pass was only about a dozen years old at the time of the Great Lakes Blue Jackets of 1918. So those three players really were. I mean, I think if I had to guess, I would say Driscoll was the star of the team, and you could, if you looked into this 1918 Rose Bowl, he probably could have been the MVP, which went to George Halas. Um, but yeah, I mean, George Halas himself, he didn't really stick out as like the Tom Brady of the Blue Jackets. He was probably more like well, I'm trying to think of maybe like a Rob Gronkowski kind of level of talent there. Still a Hall of Famer, but probably not exactly carrying the squad. Got to get the Patriots references in there. Go
Right. Yeah.
Pats.
Yeah. So, I mean, so these guys are, these are some of the brain trusts of the early NFL. And that's probably your part of your connection in the National Football League because, of course, Hallis was a coach and owner, Chicago Bears, Decatur Staleys. Konzelman coached, multiple places, including the Chicago Cardinals and some other places around. I think
Uh,
even Driscoll ended up coaching in the NFL later on after his playing days.
yeah, I want to throw a shout out for Jimmy Consman, coach of the NFL champion. And this is actually closer to me than Boston, the Providence Steamroller. I think it was 1929. So I think player coach. And
Hmm.
that's where I went to college, was in Providence. And I have a little bit of I'm from Mass, grew up in Mass, definitely from Mass, but there's a bit of Rhode Island in me too. So I want to make sure we get the Providence Steamroller mentioned here on the Pigskin Dispatch.
Yeah, we've covered up quite well. One of our good friends, Greg Tranter, just wrote a book on the steamroller back in 2025. So we just had him
Wow.
on recently. So it's talks quite a bit about the championship. And of course, it ties into some of the teams I wrote about, because one of their arch rivals was the Pottsville Maroons and some things that I'm very familiar with. So we've had a lot of fun
Yeah.
with that.
I'm gonna have to get the reading list from you, Darren, after the show because we talked before the show about all your works. I knew of some of them, but not all of them, and then I'll have to give a look to the Providence Steamroller there because yeah, I grew up on the Providence Journal sports page, so every morning, and my parents still get it. I just saw my parents. I was reading the Providence Journal just this past weekend when I was visiting during New Year's. So yeah, gotta get that book on the reading list.
Okay, very good, very good. All right, so let's talk about your project. You have this project you did a few years ago. You had, some experts on. Why don't you tell us a little bit of the layout of what it is? And I guess we failed to mention this is something that's recently been added to the Sports History Network for everybody to enjoy. So you go to sportshistorynetwork.com where you can find this podcast and Jackie's the 1918 Great Lakes podcast also. So Dan, why don't you tell us a little bit about how you put this together?
For sure, yeah. Well, first off, thanks for the plug there, Sports History Network. Yeah, you were helpful in many ways in this project, Darren. So I just want to say thanks again for that. I mean, you helped me get a home for it on Sports History Network, and you were also interviewed for the project. But yeah, so when I was at Great Lakes 10 years ago, right? Um, there's really kind of something that keyed this project off is there's you have a feel at the base that it's old. There's old buildings. Um, there are some photos around, and you kind of got to seek it out a little bit. But and this is not a location most people would go to at the base. You could probably be at the base for a year and never see what I'm about to tell you about. So, Ross Field is the field of the Jackies, but they only had one game there during the 1918 season. That was their home field, and it's on the base, and it's in front of the main buildings. It's currently in front of a gym and a theater, and still the main building. But there's on the other
Is
side,
it,
so
is it
that
still a football field? Is it still?
it is not.
Oh, okay.
It's a field that gets very, very, very little use. So on one side is the gym, on one side is a theater, on one side is the main administration building, and then if you go on the other side, which is closer to the entrance, there is a plaque, and it basically states like, "Here's Ross Field, home of one of the best football teams of the service football era of World War One and World War Two." And when I first saw it, I'm like, what's the deal? Like, why don't I know more about this? I'm like a guy who, read the Providence Journal Sports every morning,
Hmm.
still listens to Boston sports radio, follows sports pretty intensely, and I didn't know anything about it. So it really piqued my interest. Then did a little bit of research, and then come to find out, I got this opportunity in front of me 10 years later, pretty much. But for my thesis project, you could either do a thesis project or you could do a thesis paper. Um, Someone who likes to create things. I'm not really a writer. I was even still for my civilian job, I'm doing content creation. I don't want to write, so which could be a good book, but this project came about in I graduated spring 2024 with this thesis project, but in the fall of 2023, I had a class called I think it was sports journalism. And the instructor was Lars Anderson. So if you know Sports Illustrated, if you know some sports history books, he's an author and he's from Alabama and he does some teaching at the school. And he was a professor. And the main project was you got to do a book pitch, and I pitched this, and he's like, "Oh, this is cool." He ended up being the advisor on the project, and I got approved to do this project for the next semester for my thesis project. Talked to Lars Anderson, talked to the head of the department, and I was able to start working on it. So yeah, I read War Football by Chris Serb. I read Fields of Friendly Strife by Tim Brown. I listened to a few episodes of the Pigskin Dispatch when you did a few Rose Bowl editions from back in the day. And then I, got on. I was fortunate to use the university database, got a bunch of stories. Pretty much the Great Lakes Bulletin was the top source, but I mean there was other Chicago-based newspapers and then some other ones based on where the team might have been playing. And yeah, I mean interviewed five people, including yourself. You were the first guest that I interviewed, and then I had Chris Erb, I had Timothy Brown, I had Joe Ziemba, and then I had Dr. Charles Clark, who was a World War One and Two professor from the college. Was able to, squeeze maybe 2.5, 3 hours of audio down into some clips, place it throughout. I got some friends to, well, not some friends and then some professionals to help me record some old bits of newspaper clippings in a Ken Burns-esque style. I'm a big Ken Burns historian,
Hmm.
documentary fan. I'm currently watching the American Revolution, but the way that he kind of has voices from the past talk, I incorporated that into this podcast as well. And then I do a little bit of narration and kind of also tell my story like I'm telling you now about my connection to the team and why it kind of matters to me. And hopefully that strikes a chord with the listener and it matters to you and you pick up some football. I mean, because this team, the game, the Rose Bowl of 1919 for the 1918 season was dubbed, not by me here, by the newspapers of the day, the football championship of the world. And I mean, we even had Newt Rockne saying this was the best football team ever when he was coaching Notre Dame, playing against Great Lakes, and it's something that I think you really got to be a crazy football historian to kind of know about this team. So I took it upon myself, with that connection and with the college project to get that word out of this team that featured three future Pro Football Hall of Famers. They won the Rose Bowl. I mean, those are two things that stick to this day. The Hall of Fame and the Rose Bowl. I mean, it's still the biggest game on New Year's Day. So I think that helps the listeners out. But I mean, the real story is the connection to growing, helping launch the NFL. And I mean, the NFL is the number one sports league in this country. And it's really, you could trace it back to this team. So I think it's an important story if you like the sport of football.
Yeah, it definitely is. And the Great Lakes, like you said earlier, went into the next World War, some 20 years later, or I guess 30 years later, and spawned some competition for the NFL. And maybe you could talk a little bit about that. So some of the famous names from that Great Lakes team.
Yeah, so I originally started this project, and if you remember, you were the first person I interviewed, and we actually talked quite a bit about this. It was originally going to be both teams, World War One era and World War Two era, and when it was all said and done, it was just World War One. So but World War II itself, I mean, they had so many names that would make football fans, be like, "Oh my gosh, I had no idea that Paul Brown was the head coach, from the Cleveland Browns. He was coaching Great Lakes. Before him was Tony Hinkle, which if you follow college basketball is the name behind the Butler Gymnasium,
Hmm.
So those are just names on the sideline. On the field was Steve Belichick, who was Bill Belichick's dad who coached at the Naval Academy for I think like 30 something years. It might be more. I think it's in the 30s.
Yeah,
Also
it's
on the
right around
team.
there.
Yeah, yeah, it's crazy. Turned down many other positions from what I've learned. And then Ara Parsegian was on the team, who was the future Notre Dame coach. They even had one of the Heisman Trophy winners from back in the day, Bruce Smith, was on the team. He won the
Hmm.
Heisman in 41, was on the Blue Jackets in 42. And then the World War II team had Marion Motley, and then who was in the old you got to help me, Darren, with the league.
The All American AAFC with the
Yes.
Cleveland Browns when the Browns started. Yeah.
Was on that Browns dynasty of that league, and then they also beat Notre Dame in 1943 when Notre Dame was national champions in the last game of the season. So I mean, the World War II team could be covered over the course of 4 seasons, and this Great Lakes team was only around for two back during the World War One era. So, 1917, they played a full season and they pretty much had an entirely different roster going into 1918, which was the team that ended up, winning that Rose Bowl, and that kind of put an end to the World War One service era. But yeah, crazy names coming through there. Through Great Lakes, just through the football team. It's crazy to learn, and it's cool that the connection is there.
Yeah, Very, very cool. And I'll tell you, folks, it is very professionally done. Dan says he had a lot of help, but he doesn't give himself enough credit because it's a brilliant idea and he put it all together. And, as a college student at the time, we're with a busy life in the military, he's calling strangers like this guy talking here. That's probably not the easiest one to get a hold of. And, it was great because, Timothy Brown and Joe Ziemba and even Chris Serb, they've all been guests on here. Actually, Joe Ziemba's been on here probably 30 times. Tim Brown's on here weekly for the last 3 or 4 years. He's every Tuesday he's with us in the pig pen. And Chris Serb just recently, we talked about his recent book on Walter Eckersley, another Chicagoan that was recently uh, wrote a book about. But you did a great job on this, and so we're very proud at Sports History Network that you decided to join us and let us be a purveyor of sending out your podcast. And maybe just tell folks a little bit about how long is this series and what can they expect?
Yeah, for sure. So I was fortunate that it came out, I think, as I wanted, in terms of lengthwise. So it's about three 30-minute episodes for the podcast. And yeah, to be honest, this was a project that was done in spring 2024. And then I kind of just got burnt out from it and put it
Mhm.
aside. I'm like, I'll get to this later. And then yeah, I was able to design the podcast art way later. And yeah, I found a home on the Sports History Network. So I'm very, very fortunate that it's able to find a home and that the project is complete and ready for all the listeners. Yeah, like I said, it was from the University of Alabama. Not that the school has anything to do with what came out, but it was from that program that I was able to do this. So yeah, and I also just want to say, like, I was lucky that when I was in the military, I got some audio production experience when I was at AFN Naples, because I was able to host some live radio shows while I was there. So I got some experience there, and that definitely helped put this all together. So yeah, thank you for the compliments there, Darren. But yeah, it's 3 episodes. Each kind of follows the arc of George Hallis and the arc of World War One. I wanted to incorporate the history of the war, and why it really got this team together was World War One. If there was no World War, uh, this team wouldn't have been around, and who knows how the NFL would have eventually launched. I mean, I gotta think that it would have came around eventually, but I don't think it would have been immediately after because the NFL was 1920 from the Canton car dealership. Is that
Mm.
correct, Aaron?
Yeah, yeah, the Hupmobile showroom and
There we
Ralph
go.
Hay.
So that was 1920, and service football ended January 1st, 1919 for the first time. Came back during World War II, like we said. So yeah, I mean, I wanted to first off, give my connection to the project. Hopefully, gets the listeners in, and then George Hallis is the name, so it really centers around him a little bit. But I really wanted to incorporate World War One, which I learned about as well because as a country, I think we're kind of, I mean, we had a bit much bigger hand in World War II, the United States, that is. And I mean, I'm sure, I mean, my grandparents both were in the military in World War II. I'm sure you have some family that had the connection there. So World War II, I think, is a little fresh in our minds, but World War One, I think, is a little bit overlooked. So I'm just glad that I was able to tell that story as well from pretty much from the U.S. perspective in there, but I wanted to get the whole story going, and it just ties to the Blue Jackets, and it goes all the way from there to winning the Rose Bowl to how it helped launch the NFL, which was really the fact that college football was big, but colleges back in the day were not easily accessible. So it was kind of tough to have school pride. But when the military came around with these service teams and everyone had connections to the military and sold out big stadiums and was able to bring all-star rosters together, it really showed the American public that this could work. That's really the takeaway from the project. And yeah, it helped launch the NFL. And Yeah, I think it's a cool story for anyone who likes sports, anyone who likes, sports history, military history. I'm a fan of both of those, so I think I was the perfect person to tell the story. And yeah, I'm happy with the end result.
Yeah, I think you are. Now, I guess before we let you go, do you have any future plans or thoughts of maybe doing any more projects like this?
Yeah, that's a great question. Currently, I'm still riding the project is done, let's chill out kind of mindset. Um, yeah, I'm kind of sitting around. I haven't figured out what the next move is. I like for my civilian job currently, I do videography. But I also, my old civilian job, I did a lot of photography and graphic design and videography. So I kind of miss those things. So I kind of try to get back in there with some of the projects. But I mean, I do like what this turned out. And it would be cool if I could do a Jackie's Part 2. I mean, I had all my notes ready for you, Darren, for the next project about tell me about the World War II team, but I kind of gave the details on that a little bit earlier in the episode. So I think that's one that could probably be told, the World War II era. I don't know if it would need more episodes or whatever it might be, but yeah, I'll call you when I need some more sound clips if I get started on that one.
Hey, well, you know where to find me, and you know where to find everybody else. I'm sure everybody will be excited about that one as
Awesome.
well. So, why don't you give us the title of your series, and once again, where they can find it?
Yeah, so Jackie's the story of George Hallis and the 1918 Naval Station Great Lakes Blue Jackets. You can get it on wherever you get your podcasts. Our friend Arnie from Sports History Network really has it organized well, and he got it set up. I'm very fortunate that he was able to help because that's a whole nother task in the podcast world if you got to get that going. So check it out wherever you get to your podcasts. I just want to throw a fun fact out there that if you see the podcast art, that is actually not George Hallis on the art. That is running back Harry Ileson. I believe he was a running back for the Blue Jackets, but yeah, that's him. There's very little photo evidence of this team, and so he's on the cover. So it's not George Hallis. You might think it is, but there's really little photographic evidence of anything 1918 Great Lakes Blue Jackets. So just want to do a little disclaimer. I don't think it ruins anything, but that's a different character
It definitely
from the
gives it a
team.
nostalgic feel of the podcast. So it's good segue into the podcast. So
Awesome.
good,
Yeah.
very, very good iconology of it. So, yes. All right. Well, Dan Charest, we really appreciate you joining us and telling us about this bit of history, of football history from World War One and this Blue Jackets team and your podcast series, Jackies. And we'd love to talk to you more about football again sometime soon. And hopefully you do that Jackies too, because we'd love to hear that.
Give me a few years, maybe another master's degree for that one or something, Darren. But yeah, thanks for again for helping with the project and for having me on here. And I'm excited to check out, more episodes and more works from you. Get some of these books that you've been doing. Keep up the good work.
That's all the football history we have today, folks. Join us back tomorrow for more of your football history. We invite you to check out our website, pigskindispatch.com, not only to see the daily football history, but to experience positive football with our many articles on the good people of the game, as well as our own football comic strip, Cleat Marks Comics. Pigskindispatch.com is also on social media outlets, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and don't forget the Pigskin Dispatch YouTube channel to get all of your positive football news and history. Special thanks to the talents of Mike and Gene Monroe, as well as Jason Neff for letting us use their music during our podcast.
This podcast is part of the Sports History Network, your headquarters for the yesteryear of your favorite sport. You can learn more at sportshistorynetwork.com.